This is Golden Years, a roadmap to navigate retirement with Mark Cordner, the podcast.
Do you think you're paying fees on your 401k? Well, if you are a frequent listener to this show, then you know that the answer is yes. But would you believe a study by the U.S. Government Accountability Office found that 41% of 401k participants don't know that they pay any fees on their plan. So how does someone go about uncovering what they're paying in fees, and is there really anything around it that can be done, Mark?
No, absolutely. And fees is an important discussion. I want to get to that. But before I do, let me just mention that, years ago, the Wall Street Journal did a study that said the average 401k participant is averaging about 3.5% a year in fees, which came as a shock to a lot of consumers because there's not as much disclosure in that realm as there probably should be. And there are a lot of hidden expenses. It's not just the very visible fees that are disclosed in an investment prospectus, the operating expenses, for example, but there's also trading expenses. And so are you in actively managed accounts that are trading a lot because every time they trade, they're generating fees that benefits Wall Street, probably more than you, if the studies are absolutely clear on that. But I would say, yes, people need to know what their fees are. The bigger question to me is, what is the value? The fees in and of themselves are relative. I don't think a fee is a bad thing if you're getting some value for it. And that's a real question. Vanguard, who really has pioneered and popularized the idea of passive money management and rejected active management, actually has come out in the last couple of years with what they call the Advisor Alpha. It's a study that looks at what are the benefits that come with working with a financial advisor. And basically it said, most people that are working with an advisor are paying about 1% fee for the service of the advisor, but they're getting an additional 3% return as a result of that. So I'm not justifying the 1 or the 3% or saying that Vanguard's even right. What I am saying is fees in and of themselves are not a reason to get out of a particular investment. We need to see what is the value that we're getting for the fees. I've absolutely seen people many, many times shoot themselves in their foot because they're thinking, what's the cheapest thing I can get? And I would suggest that cheap should not be the most important criteria when we're dealing with life-saving things like parachutes, brain surgery, retirement plans. We don't want the back alley surgeries just because it's cheaper, for example. So thank you for bringing up fees as a topic because there's multiple facets to that. Yes, people need to know what they're paying. They're probably paying more than they think they are. And so the question is, are you getting value for what you're paying? If you're not, you can make changes. You're not locked in. If you don't know what you're paying, get with me, come visit with us. We offer this free investment portfolio analysis that allows people to see where their money's actually at, what they're paying, and then they can decide for themselves, are they getting value for what they have or are there changes that should be made? We find most people want to make changes because what they think they have or what they think they're doing is is generally very different than what is actually happening. Come visit with us. We'll be glad to help you with this. I've got an associate here, Daniel Kerrigan. He's the CFP, Certified Financial Planner. He's phenomenal at this stuff. So it's not just me. We take a team approach here, and we're eager to help people understand these issues better. Come visit with us.
Yeah, if you'd like to come in for this fee analysis, find out what kind of money is slipping out the window that you're not aware of, and if there's anything that can be done about it if you're not receiving that value that you're looking for, right? It's kind of what you get, what you pay for. If you're getting nothing out of the deal, we got to make some changes. This fee analysis is complimentary to you today, 702-996-4050, 702-996-4050. Mark, are you a big fan of Mr. Dave Ramsey?
I think Dave Ramsey is phenomenal. I wish he would stick to debt management, though. He says things about investments that I would lose my license over.
Right.
Well, have to carry a license.
Yeah. No, you're very right. There's things that he's good at, and there's things that have certainly caused some big discussions and debates. And he is not going to surprise us here. He has stirred up another debate. He says you should take your Social Security at 62, even if you're working, as long as you have the discipline to invest it wisely. So, Mark, what do you think of this strategy overall? And do you find that most people who come to you have knowledge and even discipline to do that?
Most people don't, but I would absolutely disagree with him here. Here's one more area where he's giving bad advice because he's being too general. He's giving a one-size-fits-all answer to people, which totally ignores the widow who may need greater benefits. There are absolutely benefits to delaying taking Social Security, and so it's really a case-by-case situation. We do a free Social Security analysis for people so they can see the gamut of options they have, but what most people don't realize is that your Social Security benefit increases 8% each year that you delay taking the benefit. And that definitely can have positive benefits to a surviving spouse who may have had less credit in the Social Security system on his or her own record. But an 8% increase every year is hard to guarantee. Dave Ramsey would have everyone believe that they get he speaks in terms of a 10% rate of return over time. And yes, the market may have averaged that over time, but an average is not a linear consistent experience every year. And unfortunately, people think that, my portfolio is going to earn 10% every year because Dave Ramsey said that. Therefore, I can take out 8% and I'll always come out ahead. Well, that doesn't account for the negative years in the market, for example. And so people get hurt in really significant ways when they listen to that kind of advice. Social Security, again, it increases 8% consistently. Therefore, knowing that the market won't consistently do that every year, we have to take that into consideration. We also have to take into consideration that Social Security generally has a cost of living increase. It's usually between 2 and 3% each year, where it's growing that ever-growing Social Security benefit. And we have to remember that Social Security, at least currently, is not fully taxable, which means because it's partly income tax-free, can be completely income tax-free for some people, that makes it more valuable money than the other taxable money that he's typically telling people to invest in. So I don't want to go negative here, and I get myself a little worked up sometimes on this. I have a really hard time with the one-size-fits-all mentality because there's no two human beings that are exactly alike, and I'm speaking as a twin. There are no two human beings that are exactly alike. So
you're right.
We've got to look at each person's situation. And literally, I was talking about this in a class I did at the college this last Saturday where we were offering to all the attendees, look, we'll do this free Social Security analysis for you so you can decide for yourself. You'll see the numbers, and you can decide for yourself what makes mathematical sense and then what makes practical sense for you. Because the practical answer is often not the mathematical answer. Unfortunately, Dave Ramsey is right. Most people are taken at age 62. They shouldn't. In many cases, yes, it's a good answer, but not for everyone the way that he's describing. So I'll have to politely disagree with him on that.
There's no one size fits all. There's no one strategy for all. Everything is customized down to every I that's dotted and T's that's crossed when you sit down with Mark one-on-one. So keep that in mind. Everybody's situation, as you talked about, is different. There's no same alike individual out there. If you want to come in for this Social Security analysis, this really lays out when should you claim Social Security? How do you claim it? Does your spouse claim before you? How does it work with your income plan? These are all conversations you'll have with the Social Security analysis. 702-996-4050, 702-996-4050. That website, of course, mygoldenyearsroadmap.com. I can almost officially say that I've heard almost everything. Let me explain what I mean here, Mark. Mr. Elton John, he got both knees replaced last year, but he didn't just toss them out, right? He called up a designer friend of his and asked that they be made into jewelry. So, yes, this is real. Yeah, listen to this.
It looks a bit like an old artifact from Egypt or something.
That's what these sort of things are. They're kind of talismanic. I mean, I love doing things that actually, in 1,000 years, this will be, as it says here,
yes,
this will be Elton John's kneecap.
And on the back is in Latin, right?
Yeah. Well, my cousin is a Latin scholar. Quite
He is.
He is, genuinely.
Yeah.
So we wanted a thing saying, I will no longer bow to any man, which, of course, you can't do with a kneecap missing.
I honestly think these are timeless pieces that will last for centuries.
I mean, I guess. I mean, you talk about leaving a legacy, and I guess that's part of it.
Sorry, that grosses me out on multiple fronts.
Just and I watched the video of it. I mean, it's like earrings and necklaces. I mean, it's a whole thing that he's going to have there. So,
which maybe goes to tell us that once you get too much money, you start to disconnect from reality. I don't know.
That might be it. That might be it. But
you start getting that exotic.
You might be right about that. Well, it got me thinking about longevity and income, right? So many entering retirement, they're looking for income that can last 20, 30, 40 years after the paycheck stops. So are you let's call you the designer that can make that happen? Are you going to be able to give us that long-lasting income just as long as those kneecaps are going to last?
Oh my heavens, yes, we absolutely. That's where we excel, is in creating income that people can't outlive. That's number one service that we provide to people. Of course, we also want that money to be tax advantaged, preferably tax free, and we absolutely want it to be protected from a variety of risks, things like long-term care that people don't even think about for the most part. But yes, income planning is critical. And there's been an interesting evolution. If you look back at the history of financial planning and then the offshoot specialization that I'm in of not only retirement planning, but beyond that, retirement income distribution planning, which is a very narrow niche, as it were. But when financial planning started back in the 60s and started to really catch on in the 70s, it was really all about how do we accumulate money so that we have enough. But that enough was a big question. It really was a focus on accumulation. And that's really where the stockbrokers excel. They talked about how can we get sexier returns in the market. But then over time, people realized, no, there should be a back end. It's not just climbing the mountain, but we got to descend the mountain at some point. And that's where the income planning comes in. In fact, that's where the fatalities occur on the descent of a mountain, not the ascent. And so retirement distribution planning came into play, and now it's transitioned yet a step further. It's gone from that 1 to a 2-step and now a 3-step. And so now we think in terms of accumulation planning, and then we think of preservation planning, and then distribution planning, which is really important for people to recognize, is that there is a period, generally 5 years before and 5 years after retirement, at least a 10-year period there where we really have to start going into preservation mode. We have to shift our minds and our habits away from purely being focused on accumulation and start preparing for that descent down the other side of the mountain, because that's where the potholes are, that's where the big painful mistakes can be made from which we can't recover. That's the big issue. It's easier to recover on the accumulation side. When you're 20, 30 years old, you lose some money, you just keep working and you can replace it, I've had lots of money stolen from me over the years. Things happen to you in life, and you can get over those during your working years. But in your retirement years, we often can't go back. And so we have to think differently about preservation, and we absolutely have to think about how do we maximize our income so that we never run out of it and we have the dignity that we want and need as we age. And so, that's where we specialize in.
You talk about longevity and maximizing that income. And I want to put this in perspective to our listeners, because I know the biggest concern for a lot of folks is, well, what happens when that paycheck stops and I'm only left with this big pile of money that I've saved in all these different accounts and such? How do I replace that paycheck? Is there a way to create income that's going to come to me every single week? Is that possible, or is it too good to be true?
Oh, it's absolutely possible. Again, that's a key part of our service. And so there's different ways we can do it, depending upon the kind of assets that people have. I mean, one of the most common ways, it's been around for literally centuries, it's been around 2,000 years, is the use of an annuity. Most people don't understand at all what the word annuity means. It's basically a savings account from an insurance company in its modern form, and it has it has a dozen odd benefits, but one of the key, most visible benefits is the fact that it can create a guaranteed stream of income. We're talking contractually guaranteed streams of income that can extend for the life of an individual or a married couple, for example. It's the basis for the modern pension, and most people are anxious that they don't have the pensions that their parents and grandparents had, but you can get what is effectively a private pension through insurance companies, and we do this very, very commonly with our clients. Now, we don't work for any particular insurance company. We work for the client, so we'll scan the 2,000 insurance companies out there that do this, and we'll find the best fit for clients so that we can give them the maximum the most generous income possible that fits their time horizon and their family situation. But that being said, there are other sources. For example, the home equity conversion mortgage, commonly known as a reverse mortgage, can create what is effectively an annuity. It's a lifetime income benefit that can come to an individual tax-free. It doesn't fit for everyone, but it's a great fit for a lot of people who have perhaps too much of their wealth tied up in their home. So yes, we bring in a variety of strategies to contractually assure people that the peace of mind, the income confidence that they want and need can absolutely be realized. That's the heart of our work.
Investment advisory services offered through Golden Years Financial LLC, a registered investment advisory firm. Insurance is offered through Golden Years Insurance Services. These firms do not provide legal or tax advice. Consult your own legal and tax advisors before taking actions that may have tax implications. Investing in securities involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Insurance contracts principal protection is based on the claim-paying ability of the respective insurer. None of the information contained on this website shall constitute an offer to sell or solicit to buy a security or insurance product. The information and opinions contained on this site or requested from this site are provided by third parties believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. They are provided for informational purposes only and are not a solicitation to buy or sell any of the products mentioned. Any media logos and or trademarks contained herein are the property of their respective owners, and no endorsement by those owners of Mark Cordner, Golden Years Financial, or Golden Years Insurance is stated or implied.